For centuries, whispers of giants living at the ends of the earth stirred the imagination of explorers, scholars, and common folk alike. The myth of the Patagonies, an alleged race of towering humans inhabiting the southernmost regions of South America, was once taken as truth by many of the greatest navigators and thinkers of the 16th and 17th centuries. But where did this myth begin? And, more importantly, what does modern science have to say about it? In today's deep dive, we're going to explore the origins of the Patagonian giant legend, examine the anthropological and archaeological evidence, and confront the question, were the Patagonies real giants? Or was this just another chapter in humanity's long history of misunderstanding the unfamiliar? Our journey starts in 1520, when Portuguese explorer Ferdinand Magellan arrived on the windswept shores of what is now southern Argentina. As his ships dropped anchor, his crew encountered a group of indigenous people unlike any they had seen before. Antonio Pigafetta, Magellan's chronicler, described one of them as being so tall that the European sailors barely reached his waist. The crew, captivated and possibly intimidated by the physical stature and strength of these individuals, labeled them as giants. Pigafetta's account spread rapidly throughout Europe, fueling speculation and wonder. Cartographers began labeling the region Regio Gigantum, or Land of the Giants, and illustrators filled their maps with towering humanoid figures looming over the landscape of Patagonia. But how much of this was observation? And how much was exaggeration? Here's where critical thinking meets historical analysis. At that time, the average European man measured about 1.60 meters. The Tehuelche people, the most likely group Magellan encountered, had an average height significantly taller than that, with many men reaching 180 meters or more. Seen through the lens of 16th century perceptions, this height difference was remarkable. Add to that unfamiliar customs, clothing made from guanaco skins, and a stoic demeanor, and it's easy to see how the narrative of giants took root. But calling someone a giant because they are taller than you is like calling a basketball player a superhuman. It may make for a compelling story, but it's not rooted in science, and yet the myth only grew stronger with time. Over the next 2 centuries, numerous explorers reported similar sightings. Sir Francis Drake in the 1570s described tall natives in the same region. Later, in 1766, a British ship captained by John Byron claimed to have met a tribe where some individuals reached over 7 feet tall. Once again, accounts varied, measurements were likely imprecise, and the hunger for sensational stories remained unquenched. These tales, while exciting, followed a familiar pattern: exotic lands, unfamiliar cultures, and exaggerated storytelling, ingredients that often create legends rather than facts. Let's fast forward to the modern era and bring in the tools of science. Archaeologists and anthropologists have studied the remains of indigenous Patagonian groups extensively. Excavations in the region have uncovered thousands of skeletal remains, none of which support the existence of a race of giants. No skeletons beyond the known limits of human height have ever been found. No ancient artifacts or architecture suggest the need for giant-sized tools or dwellings. What researchers have found is a rich and complex culture with well-adapted strategies for survival in the harsh Patagonian environment. Their physical stature was impressive, yes, but far from mythical. From a scientific standpoint, the average height of the Tehuelche and other groups like the Aonikenk was above average compared to Europeans at the time, but within normal human parameters. Studies of their diet, which included high-protein sources like guanaco and fish, help explain their height. Environmental factors and natural selection in a cold, demanding landscape may have favored taller, more physically robust individuals. But none of this qualifies them as giants in the literal sense. The myth, it seems, was born out of cultural bias, fueled by the exoticism of the other and amplified by centuries of retelling. So why does the legend of the Patagonies persist, even in the age of information? Part of the answer lies in the way our brains are wired. Humans are natural storytellers. We're drawn to the mysterious, the unexplained, the possibility that maybe, just maybe, the world is still hiding ancient secrets. Add to that a growing distrust in mainstream science and institutions, and you have fertile ground for pseudoscience to thrive. A quick search on YouTube or conspiracy forums will yield dozens of videos and posts claiming that the Patagonian Giants were real, that their remains were destroyed or hidden by archaeologists, or that they were part of a lost civilization with advanced knowledge. These narratives are rarely backed by credible evidence, but they're compelling, emotional, and easy to believe if you want to believe them. And here's where the real danger lies. Pseudoscientific myths like this one do more than just misinform. They erode trust in genuine scientific research and contribute to a worldview based on speculation instead of facts. When people accept extraordinary claims without demanding extraordinary evidence, they open the door to all kinds of distortions: flat earth theories, ancient aliens, and historical revisionism. The myth of the Patagonies is just one example of how cultural misunderstandings, mixed with a little showmanship and a dash of colonial arrogance, can evolve into long-standing falsehoods. But the story of the Patagonies still has value, not because it proves the existence of giants, but because it reveals something profound about ourselves. It shows us how easily we can mistake difference for danger, and how quickly myth can become accepted history. It reminds us to question our sources, to challenge what we think we know, and to seek the truth even when it's less exciting than the fiction. The legend of the Patagonies doesn't need to be real to be meaningful. It serves as a case study in how humans create, spread, and cling to myths. So, what's the takeaway? If we want to honor the real history of Patagonia, we need to shift our focus away from fantasy and toward the truth. The indigenous peoples of that region were extraordinary, not because they were giants, but because they thrived in one of the most challenging environments on Earth, developed rich cultures, and left behind a legacy worth studying with respect and accuracy. Instead of chasing shadows, let's shine a light on what really happened. The real story, grounded in science and history, is far more fascinating than the myth. And it teaches us the most important lesson of all, that truth, even when it's less spectacular, is what truly elevates us. If you've made it this far, thank you for taking the time to explore this myth with a critical mind. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who loves history, science, or busting myths. Let's keep the curiosity alive and keep the facts front and center.